I got a call the other day from someone and he literally blurted out the question as soon as I answered the phone. And he said, do I invest my money or do I pay off my mortgage? I can't decide. Well, today I'm going to try to help you answer that question. One of the best feelings in retirement or heading towards retirement is having zero debt. It just makes the thought of reducing your income just a little less stressful. But many people still have a mortgage as they head into retirement, and they also have a decent pile of money set aside for retirement. And so the question becomes, like the guy on the phone, do I pay off the mortgage or do I invest the money or leave the money invested? So today I'm going to do my best to help you answer that question. In this video, we'll look at the math comparing mortgage interest savings versus the growth of investing. And we'll look at a more conservative, just, money market fund, but also in the market. And we're going to discuss the psychology and emotions behind your decision, because not every decision fits on a spreadsheet. There is not a one-size-fits-all answer. And if you've been watching this channel for a while, you know that my goal is not to tell you what to do, but to give you the tools to think through it on your own. But before we look at this question, let me take a minute and introduce myself. My name's Kevin. I'm a certified financial planner, and this channel is dedicated to helping 1 million people retire without worry. Now, today's topic will be helpful to people who are in retirement or nearing retirement, but there's a lot of people who are nowhere near retirement who have the same question. And so I hope you will stay around as well as we look at both sides of the issue. If you have extra money available, the question is it smarter to pay your mortgage down or pay it off, or should you invest those funds? And you could either invest those funds in short-term government treasuries or a CD or a money market account, someplace very safe, or you could invest in the market. Now, there are a few factors that you need to consider. First, what is your interest rate, like on the mortgage? What is the interest rate on your mortgage? What is the investment rate of return? Is it a fixed rate of return? Is it a variable rate of return if it's in the market? What are the taxes? And what are the risks? So we're going to start by looking at the math. In just a moment, I'm going to switch to my screen. The inputs I'm going to use are this. It's a $500,000 mortgage. It is a 30-year term, and the interest rate is 3.25%. Now, one thing you need to remember is when you have a mortgage and you're paying that money back, at the front part of the loan, the early years, way more of that payment goes to pay interest than goes to pay the principal. So the principal is that loan amount. If you took a $500,000 loan out, how much of that payment is going to pay that loan down? And the way that mortgages are amortized is that the interest is paid up front, and then as you go along, more and more the principal's paid. So let me give you an example. So if you have a $1,500 a month loan payment in the first early years, and it's probably more dramatic than this, but just as an example, if you have a $1,500 a month payment, $1,000 is going to go towards interest and $500 is going to go towards the principal. So if you pay for an entire year, you paid $1,500 a month. So over that year, you paid $18,000. Only $6,000 is going to go to pay off the loan. So you, at the end of your first year, you paid $18,000, but you still owe for $494,000 on that loan. But as you go along, so now you're 20, which is many of the people watching, you're in more of that case. You've been paying for 20 years. So as you go along, now $1,000 is going to principal and only $500 is going to interest. So each payment is paying off way more of that principal. So that's just important to know as we kind of look at these numbers. So now let's flip over to my screen and we'll look a little more in depth at the numbers. Okay, so here we have the mortgage calculator. I'll leave this here. So you can see the mortgage amount is $500,000, 30 years, 3.25. We can click Kit View Report. So we're going to assume that many of you have been paying, if you're nearing retirement, you've been paying on this loan for a while. So you might be, in the 20th year. So as you notice right here, so this column is the amount of principal that's being paid down. So each year you're paying $26,000 in this loan. $18,000 of that money is going to principal, and then $7,000 is going to interest, or $7,500. And so you can kind of scroll down and you can notice the amount going towards interest is decreasing each year. The amount going to principal is increasing. So now let's flip over and let's look at what investment returns would look like. And we want to go really conservative. Now you could invest in a 60 60-40 or something else and get market returns. But let's just say you take the risk-free rate of return, which is short-term government treasuries, and we're just going to look at 1 year. We're not going to look at really any compounding. And we have a 5.3 rate of return. So we took the amount left in your loan, which is around $222,000, and we're not going to do anything with inflation. And you have to remember, when you earn interest, you have to pay tax. Now, if you use short-term government treasuries, you don't have to pay state tax, but you have to pay federal tax. So let's say the federal tax rate is 20%. So you have 5.3, you put $222,000 in tax rate. So you can look here, the interest that you would have earned would have been around $9,400. So you paid in interest $7,500, but you earned $9,400. So you earned almost $2,000 more in interest than you paid, and your money is in a risk-free instrument. And so then you could look, the next year, if you can still get 5.3%, you're only going to pay $6,900 in interest, and you should, as long as the market continues to pay, or as long as the risk-free rate of return is at 5.3, you'll continue to make that $9,400. Now, if this drops, let's say what happens, if the Fed cuts the interest rates and now we go down to 5%, now it's $8,800. We're still ahead. And by parking the money in short-term government treasuries, you don't have any interest rate risk or any of the other risks that you have with bond funds or the market. Now, some of you might say, I want to go more aggressive. What would happen if I put this in a 60-40 portfolio? So a 60-40 portfolio over the past 10 years has annualized, I think it's 7.9, but let's just say it's 7.5%. So you could see, the amount that you would earn investing in the market could be even more. But even just at the most basic level, if you just take the money that you have that you could pay your house off with and put it in short-term government treasuries, you will come out ahead. And then if you decide, I actually do want to pay the house off, you still have $222,000 parked away plus your interest, and you just take that money and pay the loan off. So that's the math. But as you know, not every decision can be made with the spreadsheet. This is a very personal decision that's based both on the math, but also your own psychology. You have to decide what's most important to you. That's why when you're planning for retirement, you have to be careful that you don't just focus on the math, because there is a mathematic answer to things, and you need to weigh that in making your decision. But that's not the only thing you need to weigh. You also need to weigh the psychological impact. There's no one-size-fits-all answer. You need to do what feels right for your situation. Now, some of you, depending on your situation, you're going to need to go with the math, right? You need to keep that pot of money. Need it for Roth conversions or something else. And so you need to just say, look, the smartest decision for me is going to be based on the spreadsheet. But for others of you, it's not going to impact the success or the failure of a retirement one way or the other. Could you earn a couple $1,000s extra by, parking it in risk-free government treasuries? Sure. But is there something really satisfying to just going to bed at night knowing that your home is completely paid off? Is that worth it to you? And if that's the case, then it probably makes the most sense for you to just take that money, get that mortgage paid off, and you don't have to worry about it again. So I'd really be interested to know what you're going to do. I'll put the calculators in the description below so you can kind of play with the numbers, but let me know what you're going to do. Are you going to pay your house off? Are you going to park the money in government treasuries and get a risk-free rate of return? Are you going to invest it in the market? Let me know. And then if you're wondering what is the best way to withdraw money in retirement, you have to watch this video. I'll link to it here because it could save you a fortune over the life of your portfolio.